Alright, so today we're going to get started on pulling a motor out of a 98 Subaru Legacy Outback. It's got the EJ25 in it. And of course, again, as these typically do their wonderful head gasket issues, we're going to pull the heads off and redo the head gaskets. So let's get this motor out and get her on the stand and pull the heads off. Alright, so we got the engine out and up on the stand. Intake manifold, compressors off, got everything off, timing belt, so forth. So now we can flip around and get the heads off. We want to make sure we do everything in kind of an orderly fashion, so we know everything's supposed to go, and get it back together later on in the proper fashion. So we've got the right side of the engine right here, and the left side over here. Cylinder 1 and 3, cylinder 2 and 4. So we'll flip this baby around and start taking the heads off. Alright, so fortunately on these engines, most everything's either 10, 14 millimeter. Makes it pretty simple just to grab a wrench and socket, whatever, and go to town on it. So 10 millimeter takes off the valve cover bolts and even around the cams too. So of course we like to cheat and use our power tool as much as we can, if you call it cheating or not. But break them all loose without using the power. Of course these are all going to have torque specs on them when we reassemble. But right now it's just getting them loose. Want to make sure you keep everything as much in the original place when you put it back together. So keeping everything in order. Nice to do. And then oftentimes taking pictures is all fun. And once I put it back together, you know where everything was at. So brass hammers or rubber mallets, just want to tap on it, get her to pop loose in the places that you don't have. There we go. Escape. And just leave them in, bring them over, take a good look at it, make sure it looks good. And these ones here are the cams. Get a little better look at it. So you got your intake side and your exhaust side, and it'll tell you cylinder number 2. They will have 2s on the cam bearing mounts, and back here is number 4, and it'll say 4I for intake and 4E for exhaust. So when you're taking these apart, you want to make sure it's pretty obvious when you're looking at the head what's the exhaust side and what's the intake side. So you just want to keep those in order. Keep everything the best you can. Once you pull these cams out, then we'll pull what they call the buckets out. And the buckets are the basically the shims and everything that the cam lobes ride on to depress the valves down in the cylinders as the cams come flying around. So we want to keep those buckets in order too. They all have a certain kind of wear on them, and you can also check the wear on those if you're concerned about them getting worn out and having too much tolerances in the valving. So anyways, let's get those cams out of there. Keep them in order too. Again, we got to pop off these caps. Just a slight little tap on it. Make sure the threads, everything's threaded out. Got a seal in there too, so pull out some gasket and stuff there, so I'll get cleaned out later. set this in order. Keep Again, you just want to be careful what you use to pry on stuff, because you don't want to mar up any of these surfaces where there's going to be any kind of a gasket or a seal or something like that. You want to make sure you take good care of those surfaces. Look for any unnecessary, abnormal wear on them. Keep a good eye on that. There's a seal right there. A seal right there which will replace those. Of course, you're going to have a manual, so the manual will help you direct you back to it to get the right things in the right places. Alright, so we're going to take off the exhaust side first. Doesn't matter which one you take off first, but we're going to start with the exhaust. They're not torqued in there too hard, but they're on there. Yeah, give them a little tonk. Make sure you put some padding on there so you can come up. And it's a nice tight fit in there. So again, look at the journals. Look at the races area. Make sure it looks pretty good. It does.